Hi there. Recording this video to give you a sense on the navigation within the simulation in Sim4Projects. If you click on the link or go to sim4projects.com, you right now will see a practice simulation, and I'm actually signed on as one of your fellow students right now in the group C. There is 22 of us, so there's actually 3 simulations all running simultaneously, running the same project. So when you click on, the simulation's going on, and this is not unlike what the videos say, but maybe my version of this will help you. But when you come onto this page, here's what you need to do. You need to assign resources to tasks for the period. You might bid on some resources if you need more people. You might consider removing some resources from your team. In fact, I highly recommend that's one of the first things you do, because if you look at your team and you look at the project plan, there's no way all these people can do work for you. And as you might have noticed from watching the videos or other things, there's a bench penalty or otherwise a cost for holding on to resources that don't do any work. And in this case here, this person has an engineer, some marketing folks, a project manager, quality engineer, and if you look at the tasks required for this period right here, it's all these marketing tasks. And in fact, in our practice, you're only going to go out for 4 periods. So if you want to take a look at the project tasks, period 1 is a bunch of marketing stuff. And by the way, I just went view project tasks. We can always go back to the dashboard, which is your first page. And you can always, and I just clicked on view project tasks, and it tells me in the first period I'm going to do all these things. And of course, there's always project management. And then I've got some design work and commercialization work that I got to figure out who's going to do that. So it may not be the same people doing this work. So your challenge is to figure out how to hold the right people on your team without having to cost you too much money early on in the project. You may want to consider firing who you have and trying to rehire people for the second period, because that's when you'll need them. And we're actually going to go through 3 periods for practice, so you really don't have to plan out 3 rounds. So if you think about the types of tasks need to be done, whether they're commercialization tasks or design tasks, at least from a grouping standpoint, and specifically things like advertising campaigns and identifying testing requirements, clearly different types of resources are going to be required depending on what you're doing. And in this first simulation, I've given you a fully loaded project team of 8 people, as you can see down here. Everyone has a different group of 8 people with their own characteristics, their own group dynamics that get created because you've got this group of people that have some interaction happening, at least from a computer standpoint. You know, they're actually interacting with each other and trying to get work done. Other things that are worth noting here, so estimated hours, estimated costs, that might clue you in as to who might be valuable to use, whether you need 1 or 2 persons to do a particular task, at least from a baseline perspective or from a planned perspective. Of course, anytime you add more resources, it costs you more for the task, but it speeds things up. So that's a good philosophy to keep in mind. So in addition to assigning, bidding, and removing, you can actually send resources to training. Let's click on the training. So you can send people to training. In fact, that's not a bad technique, since you are required to keep people occupied for at least 25% of the time in every single period, and each period has its own duration. You might find that training at least is a way to at least keep people on your team and keep them engaged while you're waiting for work to be available for them to do. So as you can see, there's limited number of slots. There are 7 teams in this simulation, 8 teams in this simulation, so it's a first come, first served basis. Once the slots are filled, your training is no longer available. So in addition to sending people to training, you can take management action to influence the resources. So basically, you can either praise them or give them a hard time. So whether it's good stuff or bad stuff, depending on the number of people, you get charged per person or per event, depending on what's going on. So there's lots of good things you can do to affect your team's performance, at least from a managerial perspective, and things like celebrating or talking or taking discipline or having a nice family event. So both the good and the bad side can happen there. I don't have any results, but if we had processed the first period, you'd click on results, and then you click on summary, and then you'd see the results here. In fact, here's this is one of 3 simulations. With some of you might recognize your names there. And I get a report on how well teams did relative to each other in terms of time, cost, functionality, stakeholder value, and an overall score. And then everyone's force rank. Be careful, the scores are not as meaningful as you think relative to the actual progress of your project in terms of cost and budget. You'll know what I mean as time goes on, but basically everyone's given a certain deadline, a certain cost, and teams that finish early get a higher score than teams that finish on time or late. And so we'll talk about the results sometime after the first period results are out. We're processing the first period of decisions on Saturday, September 16th, even though the syllabus says the 18th. It's Saturday the 16th. In fact, I better get the syllabus updated because I got my calendars wrong. Saturday and Tuesday are our decision deadlines for practice, and then we have a week of resource bidding, which I'll talk about later. I don't want to get you too confused here at this point. So here's where you'd see your results, and in fact, if we go, we click on the summary, you can actually click on the Microsoft Project Plan here, and it will download the Microsoft Project Plan. You can export all the results into spreadsheets or into a PDF. In fact, you can do that for anything. In fact, one of the good things to plan, and one of the things I recommend you do for the first simulation experiential exercise, is if you kick back to the dashboard. That's how I navigate. And we want to go list out all the tasks for the whole project. So notice how you can page down through several tasks. And they're right now sorted by alphabetical by period. You can export this whole spreadsheet, all 12 periods, all 57 tasks or thereabouts, into a spreadsheet and start doing some analysis. And in fact, that's the only way I recommend you do SEE 1-2, because here I'm asking you to map the task, the specific task name, to the type of resource you might assign to that. And let's take a look at your resource sheet. If we look at our resource categories, we have engineers, junior marketing folks, basically everyone that's on your team, we have a category for them. And this describes what type of work they can do. Now, according to the videos you'll hear, everyone can do everything, but not as effectively as the things they've been trained to do. I think that makes sense in the real world as well. There's actually a senior product designer down there too. So what your first task and your first assignment is to take these resources, these tasks, there are no tasks, these tasks, and map who's going to do the work. Whether are you going to put one person or 2 person on it? I think the obvious thing, project management, probably going to have a project manager doing that, maybe not, but that's would be like an obvious thing. Project management period 1, maybe you'll have the project manager do that. And then going into chapter 1 of your textbook and looking at the project life cycle, where does these tasks and these resources fit within that early defining phase of the project, which clearly is happening in the early parts of this project, followed by the planning phase where you're doing scheduling and all the things that are defined in your textbook that fit under the planning phase of the project. And then we roll into execution, which is really the heart, which is where all the work gets done in addition to reporting out what's going on. And then finally the closeout phase. So each one of these tasks can be mapped to one or more of those phases, and that's part of what you'll be doing for SEE 1-2. So hopefully learning the simulation, learning the first assignment, all this is good stuff, but I think I've said enough in this 5 or 7 minute video to end for today. More to follow. Bring your questions to my office hours next Tuesday, where we'll really get into it deeply. Thank you.